Hello, welcome to the Sideboard here at the StarCityGames.com Legacy Open, part of the SCG Tour, brought to you by Ultimate Guard. I'm Nick Miller alongside Jay Imperiale. Now,
hey.
How you doing, sir?
Great. 3-1 today. Lost on camera, so everyone might know, but won the other ones.
You've caught a lot of attention, though, with the camera match.
Yes.
People like to see anything against miracles.
Yeah.
They like it even more when it is something fun. Fun, of course, being subjective here because you're looking to make sure your opponent has no permanents in play.
Yes. I think it's still funner than the Miracles deck, but yes.
So you're 3-1, and we've seen Reed Duke champion a deck similar to this a couple years ago, back before he went to the dark side, started playing Miracles, things like that. What kind of brought you to this deck?
So originally to play Legacy, I didn't have a full pool of cards to access, so I really liked the Blood Moon deck, the red one, but I just didn't have access to the deck. So I really wanted to, I was thinking about Back to Basics as a card that I really like, and then I kind of stumbled onto Contamination, and I was like, this card's just great. It's probably, it's a super good card, and it's extremely underplayed. So
a sleeper from Urza's Saga,
yes.
The third way to just nuke all your opponent's lands.
Exactly. So yeah, the deck kind of built itself. I think the discard's really well positioned, and you get 4 Liliana the Veil. There's like a similar sort of like 4-color Punishing Fire Loam deck that works off a Liliana engine that does really well. So I thought this was well positioned.
Right, so you just kind of rip their hand apart with discard spells. You have the whole suite between Thoughtseize, Duress, Inquisition, Cabal Therapy once you kind of know what they're working with.
Yes.
And then Liliana and Smallpox kind of combines with that discard theme as well as taking care of creatures and lands.
Exactly, yeah.
All right, now here's the fun part. You got Bloodghast, but you also have Nether Spirit here. And this is what kind of keeps the Contamination engine going, because you entomb for Nether Spirit, and that kind of fulfills your Contamination upkeep request. Yeah,
so it's actually like a fairly quick combo. So I can essentially, entomb turn 1 or 2, Thoughtseize into entomb into Contamination, and a lot of times the game's just over. Just they can't cast the spell. But yeah, the entomb makes it super functional. I would say if people really like the deck, you can actually do Phyrexian Tower. I didn't do it today. It would be like turn 1 entomb into Nether Spirit, turn 2 sack it, Contamination, and it's essentially game over.
Yeah.
I didn't do the tower because I was kind of, I wanted to play I didn't want too many colorless lands, but it's definitely an option.
Yeah, like the Blood Moon decks in Legacy, your game plan's basically just resolve this. Most of the time that's game over. If not, then the rest of your deck kind of comes in to fill out the rest of the game.
Yeah, so I would say with this deck, where the Blood Moon deck might have 4 Lotus Petal, 4 Simian Spirit Guide, you're kind of really on that plan. This deck, if I draw the Contamination, it's great, but if I don't, I'm still playing just a decent Pox deck in Legacy,
Right. If you don't draw that, you're just blowing up their lands with Wasteland, Smallpox, taking care of their creatures with Innocent Blood, and just going from there.
Yeah, so for example, in round 1, I was playing against a Bug Delver deck, and I didn't cast Contamination the whole match, but when I fought season, we had Jit True Name. My hand was just Liliana, Smallpox, Innocent Blood, and it's kind of like that's his plan, and there's no way he's going to win that, Yeah.
And now you've kind of added the white to this deck, which is something people have done. You can choose what color you want to add to this deck if you'd like, because the mana supports it. But you get Lingering Souls and Sorin, which kind of gives you this token presence as well. Yeah, so the Lingering Souls is probably a good card, even if you didn't have the white mana, but obviously in this format it's so easy to have it. So it's just off 2 Scrublands, and if you cast the Lingering Souls, and the Sorin's cool, obviously you can't, it's kind of weird because it's good with Contamination, but you can't cast it after. Right.
But, if you get it in play, then it just essentially keeps your Contamination lock going.
Right, the white cards, while you can't cast them if you have Contamination in play, you don't really mind because you have Contamination in play.
Yeah, and exactly, and maybe you pitch Lingering Souls to Liliana or something, something like that, and you're still casting it under it.
All right, and then Innocent Blood, a great way to kind of get rid of troublesome creatures. This is one of the few ways to get True Name Nemesis off the table, things like that.
Yeah, so I'd say, my deck does a nice job of True Name I guess would probably be a bad card against because I have the Liliana and the Smallpox, but Deathrite Shaman is still, extremely popular and a really good card. So, the deck kind of took a weird turn because originally I was like, I want Sinkholes and I could really attack the mana, but then I was like, there's really no reason to destroy their land if you're going to lock their color. So then I wound up, I found the Innocent Blood. It was probably the last card I added, but it's been really good against Deathrite Shaman because you definitely have to kill it.
Then are you doing anything else fun with Entomb? Do you have any kind of other shenanigans, or is it strictly Nether Spirit?
So I would say it's the most unbroken Entomb ever, but for example, so there's only 3 Bloodghast in the deck, so there would be no reason to play a 4th Bloodghast over, an Entomb's just a good Bloodghast, and Entomb becomes, kind of a savvy Lingering Souls. It's like a Cabal Therapy when I need it, and a lot of the times it's going to be the Nether Spirit, which, even the 2/2 coming back every turn plays really well against a lot of the mid-range decks.
Okay. So this deck looks very good at kind of beating up the fair decks of the format.
Yeah.
How are you in the unfair matchups?
So I did just beat Black-Red Reanimator. I don't know if it's a great matchup, but I board in the extirpates and the containment free, so maybe the extirpates should be the free one, the 0 mana one, I'm not sure, but I board into a lot of different stuff, and ultimately you're playing 9 1-mana discard spells, so I don't know if I'm gonna, if they go off turn 1, I'm kind of a sitting duck to it, but if we have any sort of game, I think there's a lot of play with the discard.
Get to take their hand apart, barring anything super degenerate that kills you on the first turn. You at least have some game.
Yeah, I'm often going to Thoughtseize them at least, and if I could do that, hopefully I'm on the play. If not, if I'm allowed to Thoughtseize them, then all of a sudden, Smallpox or Liliana, it's kind of like, diminishing returns, All
right, so we'll go over the rest of the sideboard. You already brought up Containment Priest. One of the real reasons to kind of have white in the stack outside of Lingering Souls is this card shuts down a lot of the unfair things going on.
Exactly, yeah. So like the Show and Tell decks and all those decks, really good.
Then we have Dread of Night when you just really want to hose Death and Taxes.
Exactly.
Engineered Plague, what is this going on mostly?
So so it's definitely against the Elf deck, and I think it plays a role in certain Goblin, Merfolk, all this sort of weird matchups. But the last Legacy Open I played Elves often. I don't know if that's a great matchup. They have a lot of creatures, and sort of the Edict effect isn't great against them. So it'd be good to board in the Engineered Plague.
Also, it sometimes has relevant game against things like Eldrazi when there's sizing involved, or you're trying to get things off the table, or not lose a race. It does have some relevancy there. Then another card that's kind of broken out, Collective Brutality. This is a card that's being played in the Black-Red Reanimator deck, as well as some other things. What is this doing for you? Is it extra discard? Do you need the life gain? What's the main
So mode? I think it plays really well against a lot of the Deathrite Shaman decks. It's a way for me to, I could essentially Thoughtseize them, or I guess duress them and get their Deathrite Shaman, which would play really well. And I think it, obviously it's really good against the Burn deck. I don't think Burn's a good matchup for me. I would say that's probably the one I didn't want to face. But, if you can kill their Goblin Guide, gain 2 life, discard something relevant, I think, you can at least make a game out of it.
Sort of becomes a build your own Smallpox when you can kind of kill their creature and get a card from their hand.
Yeah.
So, some halves are not that bad. You've got your 4th Contamination here when you really want that effect.
Yes.
And then you have a Bayou in the deck, which enables a couple of Abrupt Decays here, just this kind of catch-all answer to the format.
Yeah, I did lose. I did lose to Miracles, my one loss. So I think the matchup, maybe the top is a really tough card for me to play in. Brainstorm's not ideal when you're casting Therapy and card selection discard, but the Abrupt Decay gives me a cool way to attack counterbalance and some other random things in the format. So it's so easy to play off the one Bayou, and yeah.
So on top of Wasteland in your main deck, you also have the Factory here, which is pretty good when you have Contamination out, because unlike Blood Moon, which turns everything into mountains, this just simply means it taps for black mana, and you still have a 2/2 creature.
Yeah, so you still have the functionality of the land. So yeah, the Factory's been great today. Actually, I've done a ton of damage with Factory, and it's sort of it's good under the lock. You can randomly sack it to a Cabal Therapy or something like that. So it's been great.
So outside of the potential of kind of changing Extirpate for Surgical Extraction, is there anything else? 4 rounds into the tournament, you're kind of thinking, oh, I should have more of these, or this would be nice? Yeah,
to be honest, I think the Phyrexian Tower is a really cool angle. I think, that's sort of like that turn 2 line is really cool, and this guy would be essentially 2 free mana every turn. So if you Smallpox, it lets you like Liliana or Smallpox and still have some excess mana. Because even this deck, if you Smallpox a few times, you're kind of stuck on mana, and you need to draw land. So I would say the Tower would be worth testing. I think that'd be a really cool card.
All right. Well, the deck looks like a lot of fun. You've got your tokens, you've got your discard, you've got your land destruction, a little bit of everything to please everyone here. So what are you looking to kind of play against all day, and what do you want to dodge outside of Burn?
So the Delver deck felt really good. I mean, I would say Grixis is slightly worse because they have Young Pyromancer, but I played against the Bug Delver deck, and it really felt like he just couldn't do any. It just almost seemed like his hands were fine, but the Force Soul is not great against me. The Gurmag Angler is so easy to kill. So there's a lot of Delver in this room, so hopefully play a couple of those and teach them a lesson. So.
All right, well, Jay, thanks for joining me here in the sideboard. Wish you the best of luck. Stay tuned to StarCityGames.com all weekend long for the action here in Worcester.